In this video, I'm going to talk about supplementary angle trig functions. So I have the diagram here. Line segment OA, it started off aligning with x-axis, positive x-axis, and then it was rotated counterclockwise 80 degrees minus theta to land right here. And we would like to form this triangle OAB, and we want to find out the sine of 180 degree minus theta, cosine of 180 degrees minus theta, and then from there on we could derive the others. So let's do the following. For the sake of calculations, I'm going to assume that OA is positive, okay, and AB is going to be positive because it's the vertical distance, right, from the x-axis above the x-axis, so y is positive. And OB is going to be negative because it's to the left of the y-axis or negative x-axis. So OA is always positive regardless of which quadrant it is in, and AB in this particular case is positive, and OB in this case is negative. Given these assumptions, I kind of want to find out what is sine of 180 degrees minus theta. Sine of 180 degrees minus theta, which is going to be opposite over hypotenuse, right? So remember, sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse. So in our case, opposite is AB, which is positive, by the way, and hypotenuse is OA. By assumption, it's always positive regardless of which quadrant it falls in. So this is what I get. Now, by the way, what I'm going to do, I'm going to right now reflect this triangle OAB and about the y-axis. If I do that, I get something like this. Let's call this A prime and B prime. So I have a new triangle O, A prime and B prime, and let's find out this angle, which is going to be theta, by the way. And of course, I have made an assumption which I forgot to tell you, that theta is actually a positive number. Here I'm making the assumption, and also theta is assumed to be between 0 and 90. That is to say that 0 is less than theta is less than 90 or 90 degrees. Now this angle is going to be theta. Now the triangle OAB and OA prime B prime are reflections of each other about the vertical axis or y-axis. Therefore, they are congruent. So we don't need to worry. We don't need to show or prove it. So now let's go ahead and in triangle OA prime B prime, in that one I'm gonna get sine of theta. Sine of theta is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. So there's going to be A prime, B prime over OA prime. And we know that A prime, B prime is going to be equal to AB because these triangles are identical. And then OA prime is going to be just OA. So this is actually equal to AB over OA, which is, by the way, exactly the same thing as here on the line above, which is actually equal to sine of 180 degrees minus theta. So this has to be equal to sine of 180 degrees minus theta. So we just showed the following, that sine of 180 degrees minus theta is actually equal to sine of theta. Now let's go ahead and do the similar calculations for cosine of theta. Cosine of 180 degrees minus theta. Cosine of 180 degrees minus theta is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse, right? And in triangle OAB, which is this triangle, what is it going to be? Adjacent is OB and hypotenuse doesn't change, which is OA, right? Now let's go ahead and look at the reflected triangle OA prime B prime. So in that case, cosine of theta is gonna be again adjacent over hypotenuse, which is gonna be OB prime over OA prime. Again, OB prime, okay, OB prime, which is this line segment, is gonna be equal to OB. So I could go ahead and write it as OB, and OA prime, which is the hypotenuse, must be equal to the hypotenuse of the other triangle. So both triangles are identical, so the hypotenuse are gonna be the same, so which is gonna give me OA. Oh, by the way, note that this is the same. Now here is something I kind of have to pay closer attention. Now OB prime is positive, however OB is negative, so that's the part you need to pay attention to. I should have put it right here too. This is kind of negative, all right? So OB is negative because remember at the beginning of the video I told you on the left hand side along the x-axis it's gonna be negative, and OB is negative, so that's gonna be giving me negative cosine of theta, because OB prime is equal to OB and OA is the same as OA prime, so this is going to be just negative cosine of theta. But by the way, this is the same as this, which is equal to this, cosine of 180 degrees minus theta. So cosine of 180 degrees minus theta, which is going to be negative cosine of theta. Now, by the way, you could derive all of this using the sign, okay? You know that in the first quadrant, everything is positive, right? And in the second quadrant, sine and its, in the second quadrant, sine and its reciprocal cosecant are positive. In the third quadrant, tangent and cotangent are positive. And in the fourth quadrant, cosine and secant are positive, and everything is positive here. And you know all students take calculus and that sentence, so that kind of tells you what are the signs of different trig functions in different quadrants. So we could have just derived this thing very easily. Cosine of 180 degrees minus theta is cosine theta, but it has to be negative because it's in the second quadrant. Now, using this sine of 180 degrees minus theta and cosine 180 degrees minus theta, remaining identities we could figure out easily. So tangent of 180 degrees minus theta is gonna be sine of 180 degrees minus theta divided by cosine of 180 degrees minus theta, which is gonna give me sine of theta over negative cosine of theta, which is gonna give me negative tangent of theta. So tangent of 180 degrees minus theta is negative tangent of theta. And you could similarly find the other trig identities such as cotangent 180 degrees minus theta. Let me just go ahead and write it. Is going to be negative cotangent of theta, then secant of 180 degrees minus theta, secant of 180 degrees minus theta is going to be negative secant of theta, and reciprocal of sine, which is going to be cosecant of theta, which is going to be actually cosecant of 180 degrees minus theta, that is just going to be cosecant of theta. Cosecant of theta. That's pretty much it for supplementary angles. So I have kind of walked you through the process for finding out the values for sine 180 minus theta and cosine 180 minus theta, and from those two values you could derive the other ones. I hope that this discussion was helpful. Thank you very much.